Okay,
Hi.
followed by Lai Hui Ling. So Aaron and Zen, please follow the manual for the moderator that's been set up. Okay. Um, so I'm gonna jump out to the other groups. So Kawa, Els, Kushi, have fun, yeah.
Will do.
Yeah, sure, Army.
Okay. Thanks, Kawa. Thanks,
Thank
Kushi.
you.
Thanks, Els.
Thanks. See you.
Talk
Bye.
later. Okay.
Hi, Miss Ansel. Still can hear me, right? My sound. Is it
Yeah,
okay?
go ahead.
Okay. So our group is going to do the textile. So I'm going to explain about textile first. So the textile is has become extension part of the human life since every beginning. Then traditional Thai textile is used in the form of the web to the cloth, the body. This is the textile making process to going through wet and stretch and roll and create. For the next is study on the structure which the warm fabric in the interlocking system of yarn. There's no structure need fiber and the order of interlacement of web and thread. For the following this, I am looking to my cocoon structure of the silkworm form with its fiber of the seed are divided to create the seed fabric. I found that this structure is by and unique as it formed by spinning and matrix as a biology structure material. So my idea of the ornament of grammar, I trying to use the concept of the cocoon of the structure and combine to the need to become a new language of my uh, grammar of ornament. As I observed the cocoon structure that add a skin to envelop a worm that is on this side. uh, I begin to point out the function of the skin and skin cloth anchor and shell. It can become my realities that the nature of the skin and architecture skin play in similar role in the medium between external and internal condition. And this then become the starting point uncover that language of ornament that I would later create. As a summary to finding my conclusion of grammar ornament, the form for the ornament drawing is taken from the emerald structure with the silkworm cocoon, which is the seed fiber exhibited with to the traditional textile. And also when the observed at a closer distance, this uh, silkworm cocoon silkworm cocoon is folded immediate of kidney pattern as showing right of a morph diagram. As we break down to the geometry of the particular pattern, this can be seen is a main intercept node we come to a found diagonal that can also be set dynamo, which I designed for my column. For here, this is my axonometry and also the elevation. I think can see right. Then go through to my how I going to do my column is using the precast concrete to do it my column. Then this is a foundation how I attach from the column to the foundation the detail. And also come to the project 2 which we are studying on the case study of the ornament facade and the city. Yes, I found the Wenzhou Old River Crystal Boss restaurant as my case study to design to link to my language of the first my link to my ornament language of the first one. I found that this like a concept idea like a structural thing pairing around the walnut is a natural thing. Then this the structural that's I case study. Then go to my idea for the facade as a movement and also the chimney as a structure to combine as a facade idea. And this is my facade design, exterior view, then the construction of the facade, then the downstairs will have a detailing of axonometry exploded with how to attach to the roof and the foundation, the flooring, and with the section of the detail and the roof detail, floor detail, and foundation detail, and the screw detail, like how to install into the truss rafter, and also the facade to the foundation. Then going to my project 3 is doing the culture of the center, which our site is located at Bang Kachau. Bang Kachau is an area that is surrounded by vegetation and generally, therefore, including the vernal pattern is suitable as this symbolizing of the nature. Okay. So our site is located at the Bang Kachau. This is the sun path overall here. Then the analysis that I found that from the Google, the activity on there, the actual one. Then this is the site synthesis of the site. The first thing I found that the problem of the site is the flutter. So this the that is the issue. Then I have proposed some idea to solve it, which is the rain garden and the pavable path that can avoid the flutter to there. Then this is my meshing model, with the site boundary is total area is 800 square meter. Then and also the second one is organizing contact, and the second one is the division, split to the form and the surrounding with the green area surface, and refining the outdoor space with like small activity like bicycle around here. Then is my programmatic and schematic planning diagram. Here is the, as we left hand side here, we can see the entrance here on the middle. And also the front of the river is the extend bridge is to serving as a racing place over there. And also the middle one is a cultural center, is a main purpose for this design studio. And the left hand side is a hand working area, and the right hand side is a green area. Then this is my site plan, showing this thing. Then we go through to our ground floor. Is on ground floor I have created as a textile studio place to allow the user to experience the process of the textile creation, as well as a cafe near to the main one. It's also to draw a tourist to stop and rest as they once their boat. Then go to our first floor with the gallery to showing the showcase, which the downstairs is the Tesla studio. Then maybe they can design some fashion thing. Then have can showroom at the gallery. Then the side one is the handcraft area to showing the working process of the making of the textile. This is the first floor plan, the activity I propose. Then this is the elevation, which I using the vernier to design it. And the front elevation, and also my section of this thing, and also the rendering of the gallery exterior and cafe exterior and the bridge view. I think this is my overall. Hello. I think that's all. Thank you.
Maybe we can go to the plans, maybe.
Plan?
Because
The side plan or first plan?
yeah, maybe slide 21. So we can see what is actually going on.
We also the board also will stop by on here. Here's a new small pier on here.
And the next slide and the next plan.
Here. It's going out here to the gallery. The downstairs is the Tesla studio. As they have the design competition, maybe they can have a fun on the gallery.
Well, is there a reason why the gallery is oddly shaped? I mean, is the building is the building has a lot of circulatory spaces. It's not proportionate to the internal space that actually you can enjoy. So is there a reason why the corridor is so huge?
Sheesh.
Is there a reason why the building is designed as such? I mean, you have a separated toilets, and then you have this sort of two wings configuration. I'm not so sure the entrance approach. The road is not addressed. You don't have. I mean, after the staircase, it's just turfing. So I don't see how the building is actually planted or in relation with the existing urban fabric. You have a road leading to the jetty there, but there's no connectivity to the jetty, nor to the road, nor to the area where you say the boat stops. So I'm confused.
Can I open? Cause I have did my 3D. Maybe my elevation is not showing well. Can I open it? Maybe can see through.
Okay, if that helps.
Sun Long.
Yep.
Maybe you can show us your cross section. Okay, the best part of your design so that we know
this thing is it.
This is the best part of your design. Maybe you can explain to us, because we can't see your entrance, you know, just like yeah, I agree with
yeah, I think I not showing well at the plan. Maybe maybe I can show you the video.
I think that would be helpful. Yeah.
Okay. This is just roughly just how I did, because I scary when this appear just now, the existing appear. The waiting area is over here. Is something area on here. I think got some area on playing around here. I think I have some mistake on here. Did misunderstand on my video? It's better.
I think that helped. I think you've addressed your buildings in quite separate separate ways, and it's the way the interlinking, which I think could be shown a bit more on the plan.
Yeah, it
with the
can
site.
be have a.
Because I can see from your beginning of where you started to where you've ended, but there's a little bit of lost in the middle of that connectivity to your final outcome. But I think the textile nature for your facade is probably a very strong element. But then the building arrangements get a little bit lost given you have a toilet block, which has been considered, but added on a little bit. Would that be a reasonable thought? Which is important to include those amenities as well.
So Long, maybe you can explain to us what type of materials that you are using.
UHPC for my facade is the ultra high precast concrete for my facade. I think I can open my showing again for what. It's using this one. It means this UHPC facade. Did I answer the Miss question?
With the concrete form facade or the UPP?
But it's not too heavy. It's a light structure. It's
and then
a light
glazing
material.
behind.
Hmm?
Is there then glazing behind? Is that part of the facade itself?
Included with the glazing glass.
Right.
Some part it have, some part is not. Like I want to allow some wind come in through to my gallery, so that I don't need to use my electric. Totally is the natural thing. Because we are our area is surrounded by the forest, right? Then I don't want to restore it. I want to be like a renewable thing.
Right. I would say that there's certainly room for improvement. I would improve the height or the overall volume at least, so that first you have more area for your ornamentation to grow, rather than just like a very consistent linear configuration. They could have a certain silhouette that is slightly better than just a flat roof. The way that you end your building is just it still could be a flat roof on top, but I mean is the way that you end it maybe a little bit too abrupt. If you just extend the volume a little bit more, and then the wall does not just straight, and then the roof
Maybe
starts, it would be slightly
have
better.
a curvy thing, is it? You mean it's a curvy thing?
Not necessarily. It's just that improvement on the silhouette. It's just that I don't, the ornament needs some breathing room, right, for it to grow. As of now, you can see that it's sort of like a layer cake, a very predictable height in between the first and the second floor, and the first floor to the roof. So there's no, the ornament is really and just an ornament, rather than becoming, sort of giving the building a bit more character and whatnot. So if you could just improve the volume, I mean, I'm sure gallery would appreciate that. Programs like handicraft or workshop or something like that would appreciate more volume. So you could give the building a bit more character. I think some of the building corridors could be taken partly covered with some roofing, and the motif should serve as sort of like a skeletal structure, rather than just like a paste on motifs on walls. So this is some of the missed opportunities, or sort of like some of the things that you can maybe improve on. Yeah. So I think that's it. I think we spent our 15 minutes. I don't know if any final words from other panels.
I think my emphasis is perhaps that plan interaction one with the site. You've just how you might interact again between your internal and outdoor spaces, and whether or not that I think the comment for the facade to become more of the building fabric a bit too is a nice approach. It integrates your form a bit with your programming of the site. I think that's something to consider for future projects.
Okay.
Okay, Sun Long.
Hi, Miss.
Yeah. Overall, I think all of us have covered that there is always a room of improvement for you. Okay. So I think the video will be good. Okay, it's helped a lot. But then the connectivity, the building elements that you lost somewhere or other. Okay. So somehow or other you need to back up for the next semester. Right.
Miss, I have a question about my facade, because doing my select my material, right? Because I'm not really sure is it is suitable to use on this, like UHPC to use on my facade. Is it okay, or any suggestion for sir or miss for like this kind of facade? Because it's like or totally is a curvy or not.
So meaning you are not convinced enough that what type of material that you are using, is it?
Yeah, because due to my research and my knowledge, I think UHPC can maybe have some material is more suitable from the UHPC.
Okay, maybe I'll let Alf or Kharazmi to answer.
I'm not so sure, to be honest, Sun Long. Never done any of this extensive decorative elements before, but usually people use GRC. But I'm not so sure. Again, is it appropriate for this particular complex shape. But maybe if you manage to, I'm not so sure about how you modularize the patterns. If you manage them in a certain dimension, maybe it is possible.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have project to using UPHC before, but again, yeah, you are the architect, so this is your project. You should convince enough for us. That why you are using that. Okay, that type of materials. All right.
Okay. Thank you,
So,
Miss.
any question that you want to ask us?
No. Thank you, Miss. So I will stop my share screen. Thank you, Miss and sir.
So how many minutes left? Or we can go for the next one.
Hi, I'm the next student. I'm Lai Hui Ling. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
we can
start
hear you.
my share screen. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Okay, so everything is starting from my new grammar of ornamentation, which is our first project. So in this project it's basically like having a new definition for the grammar of ornamentation, which I define it as a composition of new image and object using the simple element. So that's coming the ideation for my abstract art, which we are going to produce in this assignment. So during the process of finding the abstract art which I'm going to be done, so I having my first inspiration, which is the line like forming texture, because that when I joining this group, that the main component for this group is actually the textile. So I'm exploring it from the textile. So I saw that the process, that the beautiful of the line like forming texture, that every line is just intersecting each other and forming kind of image, and also the line forming a new kind of pattern. So I having my first draft that I attempt to having a composition of line and pattern, and I capture the motion of the bending of the loom, where is one of the process of the making of textiles. And in the end, I having my abstract art, which is this one at the left side. So it's basically talking about three kinds of main point, which is first is the repetition of lines, that every line they intersected with each other, so making how the cloth is going to be formed. And then I adding on like the colors and the textures for on the line, so it kind they starting to form like a new kind of image instead of just like a basic cloth. So in the end, it's forming this extra art. Okay, so coming to the next one, which is the ornamental building element assembly. So after I having my abstract art, so I'm trying to translate it from 2D into 3D. So I'm still taking that point of the repetition and intersection of line, layering, so it forming a new kind of image. So everything starting also the same from the loom, where I'm capturing on the last the previous one. So I'm kind of keen to make it more like an entrance kind of building element, that it kind of like of dragging or like attracting people to see to enter the building. So when it comes to the final design, where it's like a repetition and the intersection of the lines. Yeah. So okay, coming to the next one. We're having a case study because we have one of our main point in this in this overall design studio project, that is the ornamental facade assembly. So we have like a case study on this facade on this facade, where I'm having a case study on this Rijau Visitor Center. So the main point that I choosing this case study is basically because of I'm very kind of fascinated by its kind of form where there's lines that starting and then starting from the ground that flowing up, then in the end it's disappearing again. So it's kind of like a flow, and then it's a repetition around the site, but as like just forming from like a single element, but it can be reputate into like different kinds of like different kind of size and different kind of space inside. Okay, so next, I have like a ornamental like how my facade is going to be done in like a proposal that I'm the facade is actually extracting from the abstract art also that I shown before. So because of the layering, so I have a like two facades in the building where the first facade is actually like a digrade structure system. So this structure is like do you mind that I show one video for now about this it's actually an actual model for this structural element, then it will explain well more than these slides.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so going back into the slide again. So yeah, okay. So the digrade structure system is actually like because of the roofing profile. So the digrade structure system is actually like a support for the end of the profile, and where the second layer of the facade is more like a wooden kind of profile. So the first thing is that because there's like a space in between these two layer of structure, so where the space outside here will be more like a more open kind of space where inside there is more like the interior, the inside of the building where it provides certain kinds of privacy from the outside of the view. It will explain out on the building later. Okay, so coming to the building. Okay, so this is like a proposal of how and am I going to do my my facade. And coming to the next. Okay. So coming to the building, where the conceptual idea for this building is actually starting from this collage that I made, where it's actually main point about the collages of the line and pattern, and also this loop of the cloth is more like the motion that I actually taking from the Thai traditional textile, where the female costume of the Thai traditional costume, the their clothes is actually not made as a clothes, but more like a cloth that they just wrap the cloth around the female body. So I'm just taking that kind of the motion, and then so the loop is more like the surrounding and where the people is like making the kind of process of making textile inside the loop where like people is visiting they are like seeing or learning about the process. from the outside. Okay, so the main program that's showing in this building is actually upcycling. So upcycling is actually more like a recycle, but it's having a different kind of definition where recycle is more like making a new product with a lower quality, but upcycling is like I have been giving a new definition for the objects. Yeah. So okay, so coming to the design morphology, so where this is actually the existing site in the Bang Kachel. So I'm basically just having the area within setback is elevated. So and also the boundary and setback is actually reserved for the void space. And coming into I just introducing the primary and secondary circulation to the whole site. So first the void is coming to form because of the circulation. And then after that I introducing like an open space for the outdoor activities or chill area in the site. And then because of the outdoor, so I just make the building at the left side to be elevated because to block the direct evening sunlight. And I extend the jetty by introducing a new jetty to allow more boat to land where the existing is more like a small jetty. And then after that, the area for this part is like just kind of like extend it because it's kind of like small. And then in the end, I'm introducing like a wind tunnel to attract more winds to the side. Okay, so after having like this kind of like a figure ground, I started to just fix the activities within the site where this is actually the Bang Kachel pier that just like having it to be extended. And then this part is more like, okay, so coming from there's actually two main entrance for this side where it's coming from here and also coming from the pier. So this part is more like a recycle center where the people can be collected their recycled item here. And then coming to the left side is actually an artisan walk that the product to be done here can be sold. And this rate is actually a proposed building which I'm going to focus for my 800 square meter later. And then this two is more okay. So this red building, proposed building, is actually more focusing on the upcycling the program which I have proposed before. And then the two building behind is more like a co-working space or workshop that people could be take the textile that I have done in my proposed building so they can having their clothes or costume in there. And then in the end, having like a sell or exhibition in artisan work. So coming to the space planning, so I have focusing my thing in my building into this part. So how do I manage to form my spaces is actually I cutting into a few kind of sections. So I kind of to explore the space inside where it starts where the first activity which is because I having a recycle center here, so it's more like a plastic recycle. They collect plastic, so I'm just melting it into like a plastic, and then it. Okay, this thing I go back a bit. Okay, so that is actually a process of making that textile from plastic bottles, where they have their compressed plastic bottles, and then they cut plastic bottles into small cuts of bottles, and then they just melt the bottles cuts into they melt and make it into a fiber, and then they in the end just having the process of making textile is the same. Okay. So coming back again, where they melt the plastic and they make it into fiber. And then the second section will be like me. They're having their process that they spin the fiber into thread, and then they weave the thread into a cloth, and then they they have their like so one thing in this diagram that is like two kind of circulation in this building where the right side on the left side. The left side because it's like there's a purpose that I make it into like a lower position because it's more like a worker circulation so that it's kind of not really directed to the visitor eye level, but it still can be seen where they are just walking around, and yeah. So, and then the right side here where the visitor is trying to enter the building, and then they started to having like a view on the process is going to happen. And then when coming here, that people is like having like a communal area that in between the building. And then when coming, so the process is like the first making into plastic, then coming into a thread, then coming into a cloth, and then they just walk into here where they dye and they dry their clothes into like colors and patterns. And then after that, they store into the storage, and then the storage is there connected to the cloth exhibition area, which is going to be used because where I proposed that these two spaces before is more like a workshop, and also so they can actually access the end product of the cloth. So what cloth they are going to take, they can having a refer in the cloth exhibition area, and then they can buy it from there, kind of feeling. So so coming to the site plan, which is I have proposed before. So I basically cut 3 sections on this site, where the first site plan is actually cutting around here. This is actually the outdoor spaces that I proposed before, where it's more like a theater kind of feel, where people is sitting around there, and then they can having some kind of outdoor events or activities there. And the left here is more like the recycle center, and then coming to the section B, where it's cutting through to the building. Okay, so the one thing I want to highlight here is also like this this green part, where it is actually kind of like a picnic or like a rest area on the site, where you can see from here that people is like sitting around there and having like a chill on the elevated kind of scene. Because okay, that's a reason why I want to make it elevated, that because actually here is more like a surrounding by trees and also the existing site. So I kind of elevated it, so having like a more view on the site. And then the third section, which is here, is cutting through the co-working space and the workshop. Okay, so it's just more like a view on the site, on the and also the river esplanade here, where that people is like walking around the site and then having a view of the river. So this basically the site activity can be shown in like a 3D kind of view, where this is the communal area, and this is the picnic and the rest area, and then this is the river esplanade, and coming here is the jetty, the proposed new jetty to the site. Okay, so coming to a floor plan. So there's actually basically two level for this. There's actually different kind of level happening in this building. We're first coming to the plastic processing room that I proposed before. It's basically low because that I having like a that the people is viewing more like a slight view into the space. So they have a rather low low floor over here, which is and then coming to the next the thread making room, and then coming to the cloth woven room, and then I having a slight change here where the cloth dyeing room and the drawing room is actually separated with each other. And then coming to the back of the house and the toilet to be placed. And then so this is basically the worker circulation, which I've proposed before. And then on the upper level where it have the visitor circulation coming along the building, where entrancing here and then as I just exit the building from the end of the building. So the north elevation of this building, which is mainly the facade, is going to be placed. So this is more like a view of the facade design in morning, evening, and night. So coming to the elevation of the building where, yeah, and then, okay. So coming to a sectional perspective of the building where it's cutting through on here, that where the commune space is actually placed, so that people is more like kind of sitting area that people, and also can be event can be held here where people can be sitting around and having like a presentation around here. And then for the left side here is more like a cloth drying space, which I haven't shown in here. Yeah, it is more like a imaginary how it's going to be seen. And then coming to another sectional perspective, which is cutting through along the building, it's showing the process at how the space is going to be, where the first is the front packing room, and then coming to the cloth woven room, and then they dye the cloth, and then coming to the end where the showroom is going to be. Okay, so this is more like a perspective of the whole site where the entrance of this site will be seen, and then there's more like a vegetation around the site, and then the outdoor amphitheater, which is around here. Yeah. And then the exterior building where this is where the river Esplanade, how the space is going to be, and the entrance of the building. And then the river from the view from a river, but it's not very far away. And then the picnic area and the rest area behind the building. So this is the space between the facade will be looks like. And then the visitor walkway that I've shown I have talking about before, and communal area, and then coming to that how that the visitor is going to see the process of the work will be, yeah, this kind of, yeah. I think that's all for me. Do you need any to be seen?
Right, maybe I start first. Why do you have a space between facades and you have a visitor walkway? It's sort of like a corridor side by side, is it? Is there a reason why?
This space between facade is actually where the cloth drying room is going to be. So it's just more like yeah, just people to be seen that activity is happening around instead of just like circulating it.
It's supposed to be here, right? You have the top plan. You have this visitor circulation, and then the in between space is on top of that, correct?
Yeah, this is the visitor circulation, and then this is another that between the facade is right here.
So what happened there? Nothing.
Yeah, just that that people can be view the cloth drying.
Right. Okay, but I guess it could be slightly more optimized. And then I would say the exploration on the ornament is slightly conservative in a way that I think in the beginning you show that how lines that go, action when they are interlaced with another set of line. I think red and blue lines, if I'm not mistaken, could create this motif, right? That's how they do it in fabric, where the line goes up and down in between these horizontal lines.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been manifested in this orange vertical lines, which I would say a missed opportunity to create something a little bit more integrate, a little bit more sophisticated, I would say, because right now it looks fairly simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not so sure about your lower ground floor plan, because these two plans are very poorly communicated in terms of symbols, doors, staircase. I'm not so sure how do they actually connect in between floors. And then maybe you are missing some void symbol maybe somewhere. And then the odd shape. I'm not so sure why do you need such, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just that it's poorly justified. how does this angular space is manifested? How do they contribute to the exercise or the function? Because you have a very utilitarian function, like all this logistical problem where you need to take things, dry things, process things. And I'm not so sure about having another floor where you have to bring up and down your material as the process goes, because it create problems. And then I'm not so sure about how do they connect by, like, is it ramps or just staircase?
It's RAM actually. Sorry.
I would appreciate if the floor at least have some distinct differentiation, because right now it's just gray. So I kind of unsure which area is what. And for example, like this on the ground floor plan, I know you can't see my cursor, but what is this room actually? It is in the grid B and C on your ground floor plan.
Oh, it's actually like a trap making room, but I didn't put that.
So it's a void. So it's
Yes,
like
it's
a
a
double
void.
volume space.
Yeah, because it's actually just like
So
a meter below.
So there shouldn't be a door symbol, right? Or I'm trying to make sense of this. How does this design actually work? So actually on the grid A and B is a
it's the plastic processing room.
right. So that's why I mentioned just now, there's a lot of drawing convention miscommunication. There's this void symbol missing somewhere. So yeah, I would say the drawing is poorly communicated, especially when you put them together. Maybe if you put them one slide, one plan, then when you transition to the next slide, we can see which area does the spaces overlap. I know you try to use the grid to help align the plan, but again, even the plan is not aligned. So I'm not so sure about the lower ground floor plan. I mean, cloth drying room, does cloth drying need that particular geometry, or it's just that too much for the lack of better word, stylization in terms of the planning, but very little exploration on the actual part, which is the ornament. So that's what I have to say. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I think you've taken the brief quite well. I can see where you've come from your initial design beginnings to your outcome, but I would definitely agree. I mean, it's great also to see you've given purpose to each of the buildings, and then this one you've thought about the different aspects within that building. But I would agree with the earlier comments in then translation of your plan, a little bit more definition of what your spaces are and how they're interacted from your ground to lower ground floor. And sometimes that may help if your plans were on top of each other or on separate pages. My concern for this one is whilst you've got your lower ground floor area, just wondering how that's addressed with the flood issues of the site. I think is there mitigation thought about, or is this in fact raised off the ground a bit more to address that flood aspect? Has that been just wondering what your thoughts for that site implication might be?
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking that it. Yeah. I think that to be honest, I didn't really think about it. The site.
Look, no, that's okay, and I think that's something you have thought so much about the different components of it, but it's also really important to not just place that idea on top of a site. There's other, aspects that could be looked at. I think for a project moving forward, just perhaps if there is some underlying issues that might need addressing, that's probably just worth putting a bit more thought to that.
Sure.
Sorry, 1 minute left.
Okay, Hui Ling, I would like to know about your services and also material. So could you please explain to us more about it?
About the material, okay. Okay, so actually the roof panel. So the roof panel is more like a PVC coated polyester cloth, where it's actually having a have a translucency to the building, because if you've seen like the original building is more like a very, it's like how to say, it's covering the building, so it kind of make the building a bit darker. So that's why the reason I having a justification of having a cloth as the building as the roof profile. Yeah. And then for the first layer of facade is more like a precast concrete, so it giving the support to the roof, the space frame structure. And then the second layer of the facade is more like a wooden vertical profile, where it's held by the aluminium profile at the behind, which is connecting to the steel structure. And the structure for the roofing is actually the aluminium rod tube, which is having, it's like a separate, and then it's connecting into each other by welding. Yeah.
How about the services?
Services.
Sorry, time's up.
Yeah, finish your
Okay.
your last line. So have you thought about the services? No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, good morning. I'm Dan, Chang Chiu, sorry, Chang Chiu. So I will start my presentation now. So for my grammar of ornamentation, it started by, sorry, I full screen.
Zen, is
Yep.
that your first?
Sorry?
You are the last second one.
Second one.
Not me yet.
Next is Pankaj.
I see wrong. Sorry.
Pankaj.
So are you guys at the third one or still on second?
On to the third.
Good. All right.
We've just lost him.
I'm just solving some technicalities on other groups as well. So yeah, who's now? The third one is.
Now is Pankaj.
Yeah. Okay, maybe presenter can open their webcam if that's possible. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Pankaj. So now I'm going to present about my craft center. Before I proceed to craft center, we are required to design a new grammar of ornament. This is the drawing of my grammar of ornament. It is elaborated from the nature. Human take the worms to develop into textile, and the textile have the patterns that represents the nature. It shows the circle of life in nature, like the life cycle of silkworm from the eggs into a butterfly, the life cycle of tree from sprout into a mature tree. In the nature, it is only replaced with cycle. When it comes to the end, it recycle again. And the symmetry represents the symmetricality of the textile. The idea of this drawing is come from the textile. When I think of textile, I think of the life cycle of silkworm, textile making process, and the textile pattern, which have the idea of cycle of life, where everything started with the nature and end with nature, and it is repeated again. And then I combine the three drawings above into a design language, which is circle of life, nature, and symmetry. After that, I develop my grammar of ornament into a building element. The concept of my building element, the door, are the same, which is the circle of life, nature, and symmetry. It is inspired by butterfly. The textile are made from silk, where silk come from silkworm. Every stage of the silkworm life cycle are important, from the eggs, larva, cocoon to butterfly. The form of the door have the motif, symmetrical patterns, and fluidity of wings and lightness of motion of butterfly and textile. It represents the cycle of life of silkworm into a beautiful butterfly. When the door is open, it shows the randomness movement of a butterfly. And the ornament is inspired by the motif of butterfly and textile. And the stained glass with diamond barcode pattern will produce beautiful shadow casting. The material used are hardwood and stained glass, and the door is using self-closing pivot hinge. This is the axonometric view of my door when it is closed and open. This door is inspired by butterfly from the silkworm life cycle and the evolution door. Two more panels are added at both sides, and then I shuffle the shapes symmetrically to find the form of the door with the idea of butterfly. And then from the patterns, I found the symmetrical shape of a butterfly, which can develop into a door. And then I resize it into the form of a door, make the door fully enclosed to retain the privacy, and lastly add ornament patterns. This is the initial idea of the door, which is not fully enclosed. And then I make it fully enclosed to retain the privacy. And this is the final model. Next is the case study of the ornamental facade. The first case study is Sir Yapi Office, which is located in Istanbul, designed by Tagore. The facade is placed in front of a glass surface as a secondary facade. The solid-void relationship brings a comfortable office ambience by the control of sunlight and sound. The material used are natural stone, glass, and wood. The second case study is STU Campus Coding, designed by Henning Larsson. The facade is integrated part of the building, and the sunscreens move throughout the day to control light and heat. The shutters are constructed from perforated steel, and the frame is constructed with steel and coated with liquid zinc to prevent rust. Moving on to the structural ornamental facade. My design language are cycle of life, symmetry, fluidity, and nature. And from a case study is using sustainable strategy, provide optimal daylight and a comfortable indoor climate, motion of transformation. First, I extract the pattern from my door, and then I sketch to find the form, and I explore the form with my design language, which is circle of life, where textile is started from nature and the silkworm turns into the butterfly. And then the idea of sliding facade come in my mind, which can transform the patterns and show the motion of transformation of the circle of life. And the panels can be arranged to show different patterns. Like this, it shows the patterns of butterfly, and when arranged like this, will shows the leaf. For the facade material exploration, the facade is using hardwood and the frame is using stainless steel. The location of the facade is at the first floor. It will attract people, leading them to the building. And this is the facade mock-up model. This is the final model and the facade model details. The exploded axonometric of my facade and the details. The application of the facade is at gallery room at the first floor and the craftsman studio. It will produce beautiful shadow casting. And this is the shadow of the facade when it is arranged like this and this. The facade allows natural ventilation. It can also block sunlight, provide privacy, and block the noise. Next, going to my craft center design. The site is Bang Kachao Pier, which is located at Bangkok, Thailand. This is the collage of my design intention. As you can see, it have the idea of circle of life and symmetry. The wheel indicates the cycle of life, and the tree represents the nature and the starting point of cycle of life, where silkworm life begins there, and the middle shows the textile making cycle. From the site analysis, there are few elements related to my building. First is the entrance. I create few entrances to attract people to the site, and there is a quality view here where people can have the view of the river and Bangkok city. Next, I propose a new bicycle pathway for the cyclists, and there are noise from southeast where my facade can block the noise. I propose a few spaces, which is the rest stop, community garden, community space, gallery, craftsman studio, textile recycle center, which are the main spaces, craft center workshop, craft workshop, night market or bazaar, and cafe. For the form making development, this is the chosen building to remain, and it is started with the shape of the boundary. And then I introduce passageway which allows people to commute between spaces. And then I minus all the setbacks and change the form into rectangular form to show the symmetry in every block. And then I create an open space for the garden and rest stop for cyclists. In order to maximize the view of the river, I tilt the building to capture the wind. And then distortion of the volume for the area for night market or bazaar. I push a building inwards to create an open area for the cafe. And again, to maximize the view of the river, I adjust the height of the building behind. Lastly, I add corridors to bring the whole together. For the meshing of spaces, I want to show the life cycle in the circulation. So the circulation of a space will start with garden, which is the nature, and end at the garden. And I propose a textile recycle center here because in nature, the cycle is always a sustainable cycle. So we'll start with the community garden, and then the community area. Going to the first floor is the craft gallery, craftsman studio, textile recycle center, and here will be the space for the night market, cafe, craft workshop, and the community garden. For the bubble diagram, the darker one is the public and semi-public and the private. The gallery room, there is a strong link between the gallery room, craftsman studio, and textile recycle center, because I want to show the cycle of the textile. And then this is the site plan. It shows the vehicular circulation, and this is the existing building. The ground floor plan, community garden, lobby, office, toilet, community area where people can exchange their ideas, craft workshop, textile recycle center, bazaar, cafe, and the existing bicycle rental. The first floor plan will be the gallery and craftsman studio. This is the front elevation, rear elevation, right elevation, and left elevation. This is the perspective section AA showing the community garden, craft workshop, the first floor gallery, bazaar, and a cafe beside the river. Section BB, the community space going up to the gallery, Craftsman Studio, Textile Recycle Center, Bazaar, Craft Workshop. This is the perspective front view of the overall building. Back view. The entrance of my building, where here is the community garden and the first floor gallery room and Craftsman Studio, where the facade is located at. The Textile Recycle Center at the ground floor and Bazaar between the cafe and the craft workshop, and the cafe with the view of Bangkok City. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Can we go to any of your drawings? Yeah, but I think I saw the side plan could be slightly better. Yeah, maybe we can stop somewhere here, or maybe one slide down. Yeah, I would say the draw off road access or car road or whatever you call it, it's a bit too sharp. I'm not so sure how do you get to the lobby, because the turning radius of a car would need a little bit more space, especially in this and that triangulated corners. And if you actually invert the whole thing, you can have the community garden as one piece rather than divided into three. I don't know if you could imagine it to be like a inverse triangle. That I would say would slightly better. But again, the unfortunate thing about this is actually on the elevation, you can see it's truly looking like a very predictable layered cake. Is you just have these two floors. There's no profile. Maybe you can go down and go to your elevation. Yeah, so you can see it's very unfortunate, because you have the opportunity to maybe go slightly higher, capture a better view of the river instead of this standardized 3 meter or 3 something meters floor height. If you could just make it slightly higher, and then the roof could have some level of profile rather than just like a this single flat line. I'm not saying that flat line is bad. It's just that maybe some parts of it, some of the workshop would require a little bit more height room or ceiling space. So maybe you can have some going up, some goes down. So you can see the profile actually mimics or relates to the program that you have inside. Again, missed opportunity is on the facade. It's fairly flat, or it's been arranged in accordance to a wall per se. Even though you can actually make it slightly instead of like consistently flat, some of it can go out, jutting out or coming in. Could be angle, could be just like your precedent study. Could be a little bit more explorative. Some panels can go both heights. I saw that you tried to do it in the Textile Craft Center, but again, it's fairly predictable. So I understand you try to limit the number of components, but obviously there's a lot more ways to manipulate the pattern to be a little bit more dominant per se, and then try to make the pattern a bit more varied, because right now it's fairly for the lack of better term, is too consistent, not in a good way. Yeah, so hopefully you can address this. I mean, you can look at your left elevation. The roof is a nightmare. sorry, because after the roof beam level is just like this flat roof. I'm not saying flat roof is bad. It's just that maybe a little bit more profile, a bit more volume could help your internal program. Okay. So all the best.
Okay, thank you.
I think your exploration at the beginning was a fantastic start to the project as it's developed, but I think you could have taken perhaps that facade aspect further throughout the building itself. I mean, there is a lot of leftover facade that's not been addressed, and I think it would be great to have seen more of your pattern throughout the building volume holistically, because I think that was a strong element, and I think there could be more opportunity for that throughout all aspects of the design. And I think similarly with perhaps the roof structure, you could have expanded again with that butterfly approach, and perhaps there could be elements that were more heightened that could also reflect your initial concept idea in the building form itself. But I think again you've thought about your spaces, you've tried to think about what's involved within the project's programming. But again, I think I would just make mention of perhaps that flood level point that was raised in the initial brief, that there is that aspect, and that maybe the building itself needs to be lifted off the ground a bit just to address the actual context close to the river, perhaps.
Okay.
Okay, I think two of you have covered. So, Miss Fang, all the best.
Okay, thank you.
So moderators, can we have the next one?
Okay, thank you, sir and miss.
Next one is Angela. Angela, are you here? Sorry, I'm trying to contact her right now, see if she's here.
Okay, sure. If she's not here, maybe we can skip her. Move on to the next one.
Oh, she's having internet connection. Maybe we will go to the next one first. Is the next one okay? The next one is Lim Jiangwei. Jeremy.
So these are the type of
Jeremy.
Hello.
Jeremy, can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can, but someone is presenting.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
maybe you first.
Okay, can also. So I will go first for myself. Okay. So I will start with the grammar of ornamentation first. All right. So for me, I start my progress on looking into the process of making this craft of textile, which involve the heavy a lot of this mechanical movement and also human movement behind the process of it. And this is what makes the craft valuable, because they have to spend so much time and this repetitive and continuous movement in order to weave every line in order to form this textile. And I start to extract those elements that I find in the process of the craft and recombine them into the.
Are you supposed to share your screen or?
Am I not sharing? Oh, sorry, I forgot to click.
Okay.
Sorry, I restart again. Okay. Okay. So this first part is that I look into the value of craft behind the textile, which is in its process of this making, and from which is from its formation cycle, from the nature source until the human interference with the motion and machine, all this, and then it formed in the final form. So then I will look into this mechanism and how it runs. So I start to extract the elements from the process. First is from the source of it and the ideas, where the craftsman gets the ideas from the nature, how they get it, and the intertwine of the lines, and then the mechanism involved with the machines that forms these elements will form the base of my ornamental drawing later. And then I also form like one of the philosophy that builds up my whole process later on, which is this cognition, coordination, and also creation. This is a summarization of the craft process that I think, like, because cognition is over here, it means like we are always inspired by our surrounding. So we recognize what's the changes in our surrounding and then record them in these ideas, a form of ideas. And then coordination, which is the movement of the craftsman between the craftsman and the machine that brings all this craft to alive, which lastly is the creation, which is the formation of the craft. So these three steps is important for the formation of a craft, because it has to be from nature until from nature to man-made and then to its final form. So then this is the final drawing of my ornamental drawing, which is a depiction of interaction between this nature. From top is the nature and at the bottom is the craft. So in the between is like the combination of humans and also machine that makes all these things connect together. So as I look into the building elements, I try to look back to my philosophy that I proposed earlier, which is the cognition, coordination, and also its final form. Sorry. Okay, so that's the formation of the craft, which is from ideas and then come to life. However, when I look into the building elements, I try to work in a reverse action of my philosophy earlier, which is the building elements as a object that can inspire people in a form of idea. So I start to look into how the loom works, which is its mechanism, and I find that the pedals and the pedal mechanism, which triggers the change of course of line in the machine, is very interesting, because this like when they weave, right, they have the steps on the pedals, and these pedals will trigger the change of lines, and then this change of lines, this change of course will trigger the change of patterns in terms of their weaving. So I use this mechanism to form my building elements, which is the weaving these two, like I have two different kind of patterns, and when the one of the pattern is being shifted, it will they will cross over each other and then to form this very interesting shadow over here. So this thing I'm working on is actually a staircase. So this eventually become the baluster panel for my staircase, and this is the final model of how my staircase look like. So its mechanism looks like when somebody step on it, it will pull this pulley system, and the railing will like sort of like flake in and out, to create this motion and also shadow. So this shadow can be used to inspire the craftsmen for their work. So later I move into the case study of the facade, and the facade case study I'm looking at is the Soft House by Kennedy and Wellich Architecture from Boston. So this facade is actually a responsive solar panels, which is the facade is actually made of tensile with connected by steel bracing, and then on top of it is attached with the solar membrane. So this thing is a kinetic system which will face to the change of direction of the sunlight at every different time in a day. So that it will tweak around the sun path to form this shadow and also view openings. So then the energy collected from the solar panels are used in a smart LED curtain in the building, which I adopted these ideas later on as well. So the design concept of my own facade is started by looking into the pattern of weaving, which first thing I look into it is weaving of lines. And then the second one is I extract the patterns out of it and recreate it in a form of origami, because I think origami is a very effective solution to solve a kinetic structure, like kinetic facade problem, because I see a lot of internet that uses this kind of system. So I start to work with the origami first, and then the next one I start to create these modules, small modules that consist of outer frame and inner panels. So the inner panels will be used for the solar panels, and this is the mechanism of how it works, how it opens up and closes. And then this is my first mock-up model, so I have another model later. Okay, so the functionality of this facade is that when it is hot, it will expand out and to create this shading. And when it is not as hot, like the temperature is lower, it will close up to open up spaces for view. And then the ventilation can go, the wind can go in through the ventilation pockets created by this facade as well. So the facade actuation, the movement actuation is actually controlled by this shape memory alloy coil spring, which is attached to both ends of the these facades. And when it is hot, this material will actually contract to its original form, which means it will pull the facade towards both sides, so it will expand. And when it is dilated, when it is cold, it will be dilated, and then it will just relax, and the facade can just fold back. So this is how it actually supposed to work. So when it's daylight, it looks like this, and it will form a lot of these different shadows throughout the whole day. When it's open and when it's closed, the shadow is all different. And when it's at night, the LED panels that are attached in the interior face of the facade will light up for the activities in interior. So this is a render of the facade. So the construction of it is actually using steel frame, a stainless steel frame on exterior, and for the interior, for the inner panels is using these aluminum panels to hold the solar panels and also the LED. So this is the final model of my facade construction. Detail section. Okay, so now I move on to my site synthesis. So some of the problems that I find in this place is first is the flooding issue. The flooding issue, the way I solve it is by elevating my buildings to about like 2 feet above the ground to avoid the water from coming into the building. And second issue over here is the mishandled dump site. There are a lot of rubbish being produced over here due to the rise of tourism activity. And because of this, I decided to recycle. I decided to put in recycle bin along the site so that there are materials. If there are materials that the people don't need, they can just put it in there, and the craftsmen will see what they can do with it, whether they reform it or recycle it. And then the place of impermanence, which is because this site is act as a transition place between the between the pier to other activities, other major activities within Pangkachao, like the floating market and also the park nearby it. So usually people don't stay long over here. So what I intend to is add more fun activities within the site so that people stay long over here. And lastly is the loss of green space complained by the locals community, because there are more construction going on than there are less green space. So what I try to do over here is to replant those trees within my site. And the design brief form over here is to connect three communities, three intended communities for my building. The first one is the agriculture, and second is the art and craft, which is the designers and also the craftsmen, and lastly is the tourism, because they are the economy driver of this place over here, because of the if you integrate with the tourism, the economy of the craftsmen can be lifted as well. All right. And then I'll move on to these programs relating to the target community. So some of the programs that I propose over here is things like a material lab, from synthesis, creation, discovery, and creation. So for synthesis is the synthesis of material, and the creation is the creation of the design and also the products. And discovery is for people to come here and visit all these products that are being formed through craft market, performance, and also exhibition spaces. And lastly, we also have recreational spaces to attract community and also tourists, such as bicycle rental and also eatery spaces. So the space diagram, the main spaces over here are the multi-function platform, gallery, design workshop, and also the material workshop. And this is the imaginary diagram of the space. So the people can enter from the bicycle rental side. So after here, they can access to craft market and also eatery space. And at the middle is the performance space, which connects to pier and also the exhibition space. And last two is the one that I decided to be my 800 square meter, because they are the most craft related one, which is the common area, design workshop, material lab, and also silk farm. So this is the explorative model that I've done based on the site synthesis. Okay. So the first step over here is actually linking, putting in the existing structure, and also to link the intervals between the existing structure to form this weaving circulation. And then next thing, I extend the pier towards the outside because the original pier is very short, so it cannot accommodate a lot of boats. So when I extend it, it can accommodate more. And then we have finally is the side massing according to the sun and also the wind. So this is the diagram to summarize what happens over here. So the first part is to, I remove some of the existing building to improve view. And then next one, I create the center gathering space. And then the next one is to weave the spaces, the interval of spaces together, because the original structure are loosely placed, so they are not very well circulated. So I do this to improve the circulation within the site. And the next is to extend the pier and to adapt to the contour of the site. And after here is the form making. It's a bit too small. Okay. So the form making of the building is to adapt to the sun, the course of sun. So the building is shaped angularly to reduce the face to the west and open up the face to the east. The roof is also elevated on the east side and depressed on the south, the west side, to also work with the sunlight over there. And then next, I will add in a solar facade on the south and the north side, because they will attract the most sunlight throughout the day. Okay, so this is the first 3D massing that I've done, and this is the final 3D massing, the site overview. So it started from here. There are two entrances. One is from here, the waterway. Another one is from the land. So there's a drop-off, car drop-off over here. So as people walk in, they will first see the craft market and also the bicycle rental, which is over here. So these three are the existing structure that I decided to remain. So this one is for the eatery space. This for the ticketing and bike rental. And the last one, I reserve it for the silk farm. Okay, and then this one is the annotation of all the spaces that I proposed. So when people drop off here, they will see this artisan market and also the food market as well as eatery spaces. So all these are actually to attract people who are not so interested in craft, but they can come here to relax, eat something. So as they move in, they will see more things about craft. This will attract tourists as well. And then the center space over here is the performance space, which the cultural performance will be held. So like the fashion things that are created, they can be proposed, they can be presented over here as well to attract people attraction. And then there will be the exhibition space over here. And the interval of these few spaces is a double story sightseeing tower that I've created so that people can actually walk through it to do sightseeing, and also this is to connect these few structure together. And then the 800 square meter over here is the design studio and also material workshop. And lastly, we have an existing building, which is the silk farm. So this is the site plan. Okay, and then move on to, sorry. So over here is the space, the commune space gallery, and also the 800 square meter, which I will show a more detailed plan later. And then this is the first floor. So there are three first floor over here. One from the gallery, from the design studio, and also the material fabrication workshop. And then the roof plan. So this is the side section and elevation. Elevations. Okay, so this is the sections of the design studio and also material workshop. So there's a link between these two buildings that connects them together. So the roof is adapted to the course of the sun, and then the facade panels is added at the interval of every columns. So this is for the design studio. So the lower floor of the design studio is used for community space. So in this community space, people can have meeting or discussion to exchange idea, and also they can showcase their work of textile and also fashion at the lower floor. And the upper floor is for design studio, where people work over here, and also there are like photography studio and fitting room, changing room, all that to adapt to the work of fashion designers. And the next space is the material workshop at the next to this building. So in this material workshop, the main activity at the bottom floor is for weaving. For the silk processing. So it includes weaving, silk spinning, silk dyeing, and also drying. So this will be done at the ground floor, and at the top floor, because to avoid the flood to destroy the machineries which are expensive for fabrication, I decided the fabrication that uses machine like CNC, laser cut, and also 3D printer should be placed at the higher floor. So at the higher floor, it will accommodate all this activity where people can come here and test out fabrication of new material, innovative material, and all this material will be sent to the design studio, and then lastly will be presented in the exhibition space. So this is the craft center, which all the spaces are named over here. So the courtyard is at this center, and this part is the gallery. There's a coffee station over here for the designers and also services. And over here is the weaving part that the seal processing part that I mentioned. So over here is like weaving machines that can be put over here, and then at the center courtyard, they can use it to dye and also to dry the silk. And this is the first floor plan. At this part is the design studio, and over here is like photography studio, library, and also some presentation area. So it's like a supporting program for the design studio. And then towards here is the material fabrication area, and also sorry, I forgot to mention one more programs over here, which is very important, is the recycling, the material information, where the recycled material will be collected to here and reform to new materials that can bring innovation to the design. And then at the first floor mezzanine plan, there's one more space on top, which is the meeting area. So this is the rendering of the site. At night, the facade will shine, not very clear. So this is supporting programs, which is at the entrance of the site. So there are like this market, which is made of tensile structure. And so all these are made of tensile structure, and then this one is for the bicycle stop, and this is for the eatery, and also lastly the performance spaces. So these are all placed at the entrance, nearby the entrance, and this is the courtyard in the design studio. So over here there are some of the panels that I designed that I can use to display the textile in a partition manner. And this is the rendering of the interior spaces in Design Studio. So the facade will be installed over here. And there are no walls over here, just a facade, so that the wind can go in. And when it's too hot, these facades will expand its shape and then to block some sunlight. And this is the facade system that I apply for the courtyard. So they are like top and side panels. That's all from me. Thank you.
I think it's a good assemblage of programs and the arrangement, the site composition as a whole. It's wholesome, especially with some of the work done on the waterfront. But I would say some of the building qualities, for example, the underslab is too barren. If you look at it carefully in one of your perspective, yes, that one, reverse.
Which one? Sorry.
Yes, this one. You can see. Yeah, you can see the underslab of that particular floor is fairly problematic, in a way that it's not been addressed. You should have tapered. You should have some thickness or some, not because of the structural needs, but it looks nicer when it's a bit thicker in the middle of the building and it tapers out and become thinner as it goes to the edge. So you can have that sort of wooden material that you have in your roof to mimic and to make that whole composition stronger. And I would say the facade can be better implemented. I would say the sizing, or I don't know, maybe it's a bit too small, or maybe it looks very fragile, or maybe you need some steel structure to make sure the shape holds, or I don't know, because right now it looks like it's been tie everything on tensile cable or something like that. That might have a good qualities as well because of the wind and whatnot, but I'm not so sure if the shape will hold, and the intensity is not. I would say I would like to have it a little bit more, or maybe slightly bigger and a little bit more coverage rather than just sort of a very planar application per se. Maybe you can make some of them fixed, maybe only a certain portion can be open, sort of like a solid wall, and then suddenly you can just open a bit and then open the top, so you have a bit more control per se in your facade and how they perform. But the overall project looks legit lah. I would say looks okay. I mean, I don't know, but as I mentioned lah, the overall facade could be a little bit more stronger or become the star rather than the roof, because the roof is very prominent, which is also not a bad thing. It's just that your detail work has gone to the background. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah.
I'd be inclined to agree. I think it's hard to gauge via computer for discussion point. But look, I think a lot of effort has clearly gone on, from the process of creating your 3Ds as well as your planning, and your plans themselves do read quite well for the purpose of the areas, and again how you interact within the different spaces has been considered. I think again the facade aspect has been well thought through. However, then the dominance of the roof in this particular project, I think is almost your dominant feature. And I think the earlier feedback for perhaps providing some more control within the building for the facade would be beneficial in this instance. Having some more maybe fixed areas and others that are then more controlled by the surrounding elements. But I think it's a well thought through project. I think as a whole, you have considered different aspects of trying to create the brief. I think you've done well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think your work is up to me. It is above average. So good job. Keep a good attitude towards the design. So there is a room of improvement that all I think architect Khwarizmi already covered on that one. So do you have anything to ask us?
No, not really question, but actually personally, I don't think this is a very good project, because I actually face a lot of problem in solving like the structural issue of that. Yeah, because I try to design something that like beyond my control. So actually, I spent a lot of time in fixing a lot of things, but at the end, it's still not fixed, I would say. So it's not really like worth this much of compliment, I think.
Yeah,
But
of course, the roof geometry looks quirky. It will need some level of optimization, but I think considering you are just a second-year student, we are appreciating your bravery, or your intent, or your effort to actually explore something that you might not or feel, or you might not feel comfortable with. So we appreciate that. So we're gonna give our grade based on that. But of course you can, I mean, if you put such a high expectation on yourself, which is good, you can honestly go on and optimize the roof a bit further, because if you look how the roof geometry is being controlled, is fairly mainly controlled by the plan, or maybe the plan and the roof should not be aligned per se. The roof should be slightly larger in terms of the coverage, so you can have slightly more shelter from the rain, especially when you are in such an open area, in sort of this open river, right, with no adjacent tall buildings or whatnot. So, but of course, we don't want to dampen your spirit too much by nitpicking.
Okay.
By nitpicking all those things. I mean, we could ask where the water goes. I mean, rainwater downpipe and where the gutter is. But I mean, what's the point of that at this moment of time? So I'm sure you can improve further. But as of now, we want to say, a job well done in this particular context. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Time's up.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I will go through my project with this semester. I will start with the my new grammar of ornamentation. So basically, my new grammar of ornamentation or more art is more inspired on what is nature and everything that has to do with nature, or the patterns like related in nature, and also the patterns that we can find in Thai textile. So the objective is to apply nature in models and physical social problems and consistently find elegant ways to achieve specific environmental goals. So for my new grammar of ornamentation, I have broken through a few elements that I use to like create my new ornamentation. The first one is an element inspired in the kit pattern. The kit pattern is basically a pattern that is usually is traditionally made in Thai textile. It's one of the common patterns that is used in is basically a diamond rocket pattern, and that pattern I use it to implement it in my new grammar of ornamentation. The second element here is basically it's kind of like organic shapes that represent organic materials that are used for textile. As you know, the textile is made of like organic materials like cotton and things that come from nature. So I also try to like implement that in my new grammar of ornamentation. So basically, the idea behind the new grammar of ornamentation is basically that it's kind of like a representation of nature, basically ornamentation in nature. So the idea also is to kind of like represent flowers from different perspectives in design and maintain the strength of curved lines. As we know, when we are talking about organic and about nature, it's really important to emphasize that the curvature of things, the curvature of everything. So for my building element, I started with a shape that is kind of like a flash, and it's basically like made of glass panels on the frame. In this case, instead of mapping the flowers in the glass, I made the shape of the flower as a frame. So my building element is basically inspired in that is basically related to my new grammar ornamentation. The frame is basically timber, and as I said before, I have made of timber and glass. So this is basically how to my building element, basically the assemble of it. And this is a section and explanation of how it will basically look like. So moving on into my case study in my building ornamental facade. So for my case study, I have a cultural center which is located in Shanghai. So basically, what caught my attention from this building facade is the fact that the facade is basically made of 3 layers. It is rotating through the building. It's gonna be rotating through the building. So that's basically what caught my attention. It also gives different. It allows the light to get into the building into different walls during different times of the day. So that's basically what caught my attention from this case study. So for my building ornamental facade, so the idea is to implement the concept of emotion of the facade from the case study. As I said, as I mentioned before in the case study, the motion of the facade. The facade is kind of like rotating, has 3 layers, and it's like rotating. So the idea is to implement the motion of the facade from the case study and having different layers of ornamental facade. So that's basically what I took. I took from my case study. So the design intention is having, for my design, my ornamental facade design intention is to have and having different patterns and filling up into a new pattern, having up down segments of this piece and back and so basically my building ornamental facade is also made of 3 layers, but in this case, the 2 of the layers are in motion and basically getting forming into a new pattern, and that will allow different that would allow the light to get to different times of the day in a different mood, and it will also give this waving in texture which was my main idea. So the reason why it's kind of like crossing 2 of the layers is the reason is because I took as I mentioned before in my new grammar of ornamentation, one of the patterns that I use is the key pattern as I mentioned before. So I used that pattern as well, which is the one that I wanted to translate into my building facade when the layers are in motion. So basically, this is an exploded of my building facade. It's made of timber. And this is a 3D model and a physical model of my building facade. As we can see when the layers are crossing, it's kind of like forming a new facade, a new pattern, sorry, which is, as I mentioned before, the key pattern, the diamond pattern. So moving on into my cultural center. So here I have the key plan and the Pankaj Pier site plan. So for my size synthesis, I try to different parameters the different parameters of the site. The most common ones are the sun path, the wind directions, the views from the river in circulation. So as an analyzed site synthesis, one of the strain of the site I have is like very green and full of natural vegetation, and also we have a river area which is used as the mode of transportation as well, which that would allow to have two entrances, one from the river and one from the road. So for the weaknesses of the site, I have the environmental issues since the site is located near the river. We know as the water goes up, it can actually cause floods and things like that. Another thing was the circulation was not really good. So one of the ideas is also like to improve the circulation and try to add more parking areas. So for the opportunities, as I mentioned before, is to create a space parkings. Also, the reformation of the site and make it a little bit eco-friendly. The existing the existing site, the existing buildings with my new cultural center. So this is basically my design intention. As you can see, I try to reflect here the important problems that I want to implement, which is the main one, which is the textile making, and also I try to implement also the fact that the site will remain as it is only the fact that it will be kind of like integrated, reformed and integrated with the existing building. So for the design idea, we went through the whole semester. We have textile, which is the craft. We have bankachao, and we have ornamentation. And through these three things, from the textile, I try to extract what is basically movement and flow. As we can see, as we know, when we are making textile, during the process of making the textile, we can see a lot of movement and flow. When it comes to bankachao, we have the major factor is that we have a natural vegetation. It's really natural, it's really green area. And when it comes to the ornamental have the textile making fluidity and freedom of dimension, which is something that is reflected in my new grammar of ornamentation. So based on these two things, I try to develop my building, my new cultural center. So the idea, as I mentioned before, the idea is to express environment concept and express individuality and dominance of a building and integration for the throughout. Sorry. So basically, my form development for the first here is basically the site boundary. Okay, so I try to focus in 2 points, which is one is like at the drop-off point, the one at the main road, and the other one is the one that has spaces. It has like big spaces. So for the second, basically the freedom of dimension and fluidity to increase accessibility to views. As I was doing, I don't know if you were able to see the shape, the form, how I started to construct the form of the new cultural center is basically to allow the freedom of dimension and also to increase the views to the river. And also to like implement connectivity. So basically, for my space planning, this is a layout of my ground floor. So for my space planning, I have at the drop-off area, I have parking, I have an artisan shop, which is that's the area that is integrated to the existing buildings that are there. I have an artisan workshop. I have the WC. I have a multipurpose hall. I have another WC, and I have a computer room. So for my first floor plan layout, I have at the top of the where I have the parking, I have an administration building. The administration building is basically made of offices and a reception, because as we know, even though this is a small site, but the site itself is quite big, and there is a lot of tourists getting into the site, and I kind of like have an administration building, or more as a blog, which is part of my cultural center. So that office is that blog is basically for the whole administration site, not only the cultural center, but also existing buildings and everything that has to do with it. So for the other side of the building, I have the studio workshop, which is for the design, which is for the textile making. I have an auditorium. I have an exhibition room for the textile making exhibition, and other types of exhibitions as well, because we also have artisans in the ground floor, and yeah, it's basically for the textile and other type of crafts. And I have a small so this is my ground floor plan and architecture. First floor plan. So here I have my elevation, south, west elevation, or north elevation, and so on. I have my sections here. Here, this is my rendering pictures. So for the first image, as you can see, I try to show how the facade, my facade will look like, which is located at the ground floor. So it's located at that area, and I try to basically show how it will look like. The second, for the third image, I have basically what is like the bag. And for the fourth image, it's kind of like I try to show how the existing the cultural center integrated with the existing building. Sorry. Here. So it's basically here where I try to like integrate the existing buildings which are here in the cultural center. So that's all from me.
I think there is something interesting going on the composition of the roof. They have some level of hierarchy or order per se, but I would say your biggest downfall is actually communication, visual communication. You can see that your section, for example, is almost unreadable. It doesn't. Can we go there? So it doesn't give or it doesn't give the sense of the space that we would have. Yeah. So I'm not so sure how, and yeah, maybe if you export them to CAD, put a bit more detail, maybe we can appreciate the drawing a little bit better, and then maybe some sense of scale, maybe some furnitures or figures, or trees might help as well. In terms of the program or space, I'm not so sure about the program that or the planning is on a linear, very thin linear plan with connection with corridor. Sometimes you need to examine the relationship between space and corridor. Just like our house, I mean, most of our Malaysian houses don't have corridor in the house because you want to utilize every inch of your space. But in this particular case, you might want to consider that in some spaces. It doesn't necessarily, not every space would require these 4 walls for ultimate division. You just recess the floor a bit so you can have that intangible separation or visual separation, but not physical, total physical separation. So I would say you did not explore that aspect, especially when you are dealing with. Can we go to your plan so you can see what I'm talking about? Yeah, so you can see that there's a lot of rooms actually fronting a corridor, and basically if you have some of the rooms open up or some of the space, some of the activity that can be in this sort of like a pavilion folly like space, it will be better. So you have more relationship to the river, because when you have a linear space, you can see that this particular corridor is quite long. When you are in that particular space, the thing that you will see is this elongated perspective of walls and nothing else. So it could be slightly better. The experience there could be improved if you don't resort to one way of organizing space. But I'm also finding a hard time to relate the plan with the elevation. So I'm not so sure. Maybe some elements are missing, like dotted lines or columns from the structure above or something. So I'm not so sure because.
Can I, because I was having like my laptop is like really slowing down, but if it's okay, I would like to like share my 3D so if it's okay.
So this is ground floor plan, is it? Right?
Yes.
Because the drawing is not labeled. So I assume. So okay. Let's see if that helps.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry, it's a little bit slow. Okay.
Oh. So how do you establish the floor plans, or how do you manage the geometry, because it looks
Wait. So this is basically the ground floor. So here is basically where the existing building and the cultural center kind of like integrated. So in the 3D, I don't know if, wait. In 3D is kind of like looking this way. I don't know if you're able to like appreciate it.
Yeah, there's definitely room for optimization. I mean, you need to be able to control the geometry, because right now the valley and the pitch of that roof is going haywire. Like it could be nice. I think as an overall, as a concept, it could be better. in a way of maybe the roof should be, as I mentioned to the last guy, should be larger because it looks so stunted. The proportion of the wall and the roof is maybe can be improved, and then the outlook of the whole project can be improved, and of course not simplifying, but just managing the dimension and geometry, because right now you can see the roof is going all over the place. So maybe it's not the right system to use, or maybe we can opt for simpler metal decking roof or something. But yeah, you should improve on that, improve on the control of geometry. It looks like the project have taken its life on its own and dragging you to where you know the place that you don't want to go. So maybe next time you should have a little bit more control on what you are designing. All right.
Thank you.
I think you've come from, your floor plan is quite organic in from your concept design, which I think that could have been played on more. I think you have struggled a little bit with your visual communication, and I think that's definitely an area you can improve on. Just looking at the plan, some simple aspects of labeling your plans, as well as your room areas, even perhaps a bit of dimensioning for scale to the site. But I think even simple things like your wording of in the space planning, it's always good to be able to read the full word in its own little emphasis instead of part of the word crossing down below. I think that helps. Just that visual communication, I think, is something you'll be able to work on next time. Again, I think your exploration of facade was really quite well considered. However, it then got lost a bit when you've tried to apply it to the building itself. And I think that connection between your facade could have been highlighted a little bit more throughout the building, because it's quite a lovely aesthetic, and I think that little bit did get lost a bit, but there's always room for improvement, so that's a good starting point.
Okay, thank you.
So next one, is it? Is there more comments from the panels?
Yes, we can go for the next one.
All right, thank you, Angela. So next one is Jeremy Lim.
Hello, can you hear? Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Okay. So good morning. My name is Lim Jiang Wei. You can call me Jeremy. So today I'm going to present. Sorry. I need to share screen. I don't know. Yeah, where's my? Yeah, this one. So my name is Lim Jiang Wei. You can call me Jeremy. So today I'm going to present the future of craft. So let's start from the new grammar of ornament. So I would like to say I found the new language of the ornamentation is the behind the meaning, so the truth. From the research of textile I did, the inspiration for this abstract art comes from the meaning of textile pattern. For example, natural flora and fauna. So and flora colors and social, culture, and historical custom, religion, belief, and aesthetic concept have deep cultural connotation and spiritual meaning. So for the color, the element of the new colors, the characteristics is of the textile art. The artist result the authors by weaving workers according to their own aesthetic taste and weaving experience. So this color have their own different meaning. So like for the lotus is a symbol of Buddhist, means the meaning of lotus is symbol of Buddhist. Yeah. So yeah, it also has bring the many meanings. Yeah, so such as the purities, nobility, fertility, religion, worship, immortal symbolism. Yeah, so on. For the fauna, it's like different animals have different meanings. Like especially for elephants. So the elephants is the national symbol of the Thailand, and are highly praised for their great strength, endurance, and wisdom for the royal family. It was a symbol of strength and power. Yeah, and fish, butterflies, and birds are meaning blessing, association, and longevity. So you can see that for the basic weaving pattern is the planning. So the weaving pattern is symbol like planning weaving. So this kind of thing is the most common. So the intention of the traditional hand symbolism and the weaving of the textile weaving, the pants there, and for the traditional hand cleaning, represent the power of the movement. Yeah. So for textile pattern, it's like different means join together to represent different. Oh, sorry, I forgot open the can. Yeah. So for the project two describes my inspiration from textile, bring all the inspiration into the architecture element. So I inspiration the ideas, philosophy, and improvement in the abstract art, new grammar of decoration, showing all the philosophy meaning in the door and expressing it will provide an excellent spatial quality. Finally, consider putting the lighting strategy into the architecture element into increase its sense of the quality. So you can see the concept draft was inspired by abstract art. So from the conceptual draft, you can see that the pattern two doors then symmetrical effect. So after all that, the concept turned the original pattern into abstraction. So the pattern sees that the form becomes the effect for geometry patterns and making the overall effect of the complex and simple existing and density. It gives the people strong sense of the beauty. So for the color symbol, it's like common weaving method for the textile shade is the blending the weaving. After simplifying pattern, it can transform into the stained glass. So color are used to decorate and fill the picture, making the overall look concise and clear and orderly. So the meaning of the textile is the color of the present all blessings such as luck and belief and peace. Yeah. So for the fauna symbol, it's like animal present different the meaning. For the example, worship, being religion associated with lah. So the spirit animal that is turned into the expression is seen to have a bit of mystery and deep cultural connotation and spiritual meaning. For the flower symbol, it's like special lotus for flower. So which represents the symbol of the Buddhist. So yeah. So okay. So this is the final model. So you can see that when the door is closed, it becomes a decorative wall. This was is representing making the visitor feel it and appear. For example, the detail of the door patterns. So touch with yeah. So in this case study, the exterior work is the equally important to the design of the building. So the window garden is facade is a complex and beautiful study of nature, geometry, shape, and layer, expressing this sense the complexity. So from an artistic feeling to visual fascination. So this is an abstract representation. So the thing is that the feel light is the receipt inside, which made the space interesting because it has the interesting characteristics of the incident light while allowing the ventilation and viewing but still maintains the privacy of the interior. Yeah, this is the study and detail study every panel. Yeah. So for the I propose the ornamentation facade is like keyword is like complexity and traditional. It's like why traditional? Because I study back my abstract art is like machine to natural. Because like with the progress of the time, handicraft are not the verge of being lost, leading to the replacement of the machinery. So for the complexity is lies to show means natural. So the keywords is like is expressed by the meaning behind the textile. So the first side is densest complexity. So this means that the raw material of the textile comes from the shoe, which is the natural fiber. So design development is like just like under the this is the first thing you can see the design complexity. Yeah, see. So turn compressed line into geometry patterns. So the combination of the two creates dynamic. Yeah. So the facade design functionality is like the dynamic sun with a sensor that continually measure the level of the light and heat. Then also the perforation of the shelter is which the facade is the bright compressed the facade is geometric pattern, which is the provides a clearance in the exterior facade and dynamic light on the interior. Also, the facade suitable for an opening angle of the approximately 90 degrees. It is the best opening angle related to the light and energy handling. So, and assisting the building while providing user with the best external urban space view. This is the facade. So this is a construction method. So this is my building facade element for every detailing. So now we go into the trussing craft center. So for the key plans, so for Thailand, Bangkok, Bang Krachao is an island or sea in Bangkok formed by a bend in the Chao Phraya River and is the western end located in the Chao Phraya. Is the little villages, jungle, Buddhist temple, and lovely vegetation. So yeah, for the Chao Phraya River, is the connection between the Bang Krachao and Bangkok. On the Bang Krachao side, river is the connected to the Bang Krachao pier. Meanwhile, on the Bangkok side, the river is surrounded by industry port area as the river serves as a platform for the shipment transportation. So this is my sword for the Bang Krachao. So in summary, the strength of this place is that it is the surrounded by greenery, and the opposite is the sea view. Is the strong wind comes from the southwest. Is witness like in the narrow roads. So yeah, narrow roads. Many motorcycle parked on the side of the road. Some roads have the uneven holes causing the water to accumulate. So the point is that the limit space that caused the lack of the parking space during the rainy season. So the water level may rise and may cause the flooding. So I think this is the place can be considered for the refurbishing existing building and creating good tourist attraction, provides a more recent place redesigned to connect each space with the nature, and then create sun space for the motorcycle park on the side of the road. So this is my spatial planning. So this yeah, you can see that. This is my ground. Sorry, my ground floor is showing exhibition on the ground floor, and office with the restaurant, all everything. Only the craft market is not including the 800. It's the supporting space. So for the for the exhibition, also workshop area on the first floor, and the rooftop garden is on the second floor. So for the message model, is like I propose the two block in the different place with the different function. So this block is proposed the site, yeah, a studio and the experience, and gallery. So to increase the corridor to allow the more pedestrians the circulation, so I divide the block into the 6 islands. So to allow the natural ventilation into the central courtyard, so the 6 islands are separate. The central courtyard becomes a space for the people to coexist. So to let people exercise enjoying the view at the high place, so the islands above the phone, the ramp were elevating, circulating into the first floor. Then connect all the space to the art studio and then create the walkway, expand the journeys and view to the surrounding. So for the proposed site is that I propose the organic shape is of the building is allow the winds flow the sides, also allow the natural lighting and catch the wind into the building, create the void in the middle of the block. So for this, allow the visitors to enjoy high experience. The entrance is lower, then so there is the security to the roof, and the building is connected to the end of Pangacha. So this is my design intention. But yeah. So yeah, my design intention is the pier has a strong tourist foundation, and the pier provides the visitor with the skylight view and basket rental area. So in my main purpose is to improve the environment around the site and demolish the abandoned building and promote the visit of the tourists or students and make good use of every space for the development. So for the community, is the showing the historical. It's like you want invite the local craftsmen to spread the history of share the history of Thai textile and allow tourists to understand where is the textile coming from. Yeah. So for the exhibition propagate is like show the textile product made by combining traditional and modern technology at the exhibition to share the appreciate of Thai textile. So for the field, the greenery is like surrounding is the green environment. So to let the visitors experience the journey and appreciate and the surrounding view, and visitor can feel the freshness of the lunch. So for the education workshop, it show the public how to use the traditional craftsmanship to make the textile. You can the craftsmen can also educate the local student or local tourists about the quality of Thai textile, how to weaving. So for the market area is the supporting area, not including, but it's like something have different local handicraft to show the public how to use the modern technology to make the different products and share the share of the Thai textile. So the tourists or student can personally make the products they want. So this is my site plan. You can see this the ramp to the second, this the brief. Also this the view deck and connect to the craft center. This part is the existing. It's not existing parking area. It's like redesign the outlet because this existing is parking is a very something problem there. So I plans to redesign your circle for the motor, which is the motor part in the side of the road. The so this is my ground floor plan. So you see this is my working area. So this is the entrance this is the main entrance from the Pankachao. This one is the pier, coming from pier. So this is my building and main entrance. Yeah, so this part is the experience historical. So also like as invite the local craftsmen, explain everything, and yeah. So yeah, so this one, then the behind this part is the showing office and management and meeting. So yeah, restaurant is the outside area. So this is my first floor plan. My first floor plan is like showing workshop area is about allowed here. So after they can after they've experienced the workshop, then they can go outside to sitting, can enjoy the surrounding. Also, they have the staircase. Then, which they want to go to restaurant, they can using the staircase, or going to roof garden, also can use the staircase. So this part is the exhibition area. So this part is after exhibition, is like outdoor area which they can using this corridor to the roof garden. Either they can use this door to the brief. So this is my roof garden. So this is my elevation for the building. You see that. So using the building facade to cover to the wall. So this is my another view for elevation. So yeah, this is my right elevation for which the facing the Bangkok. So this is my left elevation. So this is my perspective bird view for the building. Also, this is my interior or render. Yeah. So showing the every different product of this town. So it's like salon, like cloth, like see. So this part is showing the workshop is like asking the local craftsmen to teaching how to use this to create the town. So this is the garden area, which is the second floor after the exhibition. Yeah. So this is the perspective human view to the facade. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I would just start with this image. I would say even though the colorful panels might be a bit too big, maybe you can segmentize them better, but maybe you can improve the outlook by increasing the height up until above, and then maybe increasing the total length by also extending just below the beam on this particular perspective. But beside that, in the beginning you mentioned that this whole pattern or this whole motif has a spiritual, a religious connotation or interpretation, but unfortunately those unique features not been utilized or manipulated in a way that we can appreciate this building in a bit more atmospheric experience, because I think your building, for the lack of a better term, is quite crude. It's kasar. It's rough.
Okay.
It's been an assemblage of these foreign things being put together. The composition could be improved. The way that you arrange the space in this particular oval shape could be refined, I would say. And then I think the recipe of creating this atmospheric or spiritual space is out of space that is out of scale. So sometimes when you have this very consistent floor by floor, the floor height is fairly consistent. There's not much surprise that there's no room for people to have this mysterious or explorative mindset, because they kind of like expected after the staircase there will be another floor. After the staircase is going to be the flat roof, which is the garden. So
Okay.
maybe if you have a little bit sense of not saying that clarity is a bad thing, but sometimes if the thing's a little bit more mysterious, or in a way that entice people to actually explore the building, that will give that pattern or that motive you mentioned earlier on a little bit more meaning. People try to learn, what is this pattern all about? What is the story behind the motifs and whatnot? But as of now, other people that might not be aware of such a gravity of meaning will just see this as a colorful ribbon,
Oh.
a bird nest kind of building. So maybe in the future, you should give it a little bit more attention to the gravity of the things that you the subject matter that you're talking about. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I'd be inclined to continue on that. I think you've to take the idea of the colouring as part of your emphasis from the brief. I think it's a really clever idea, but it's translated perhaps not as well as you possibly would have liked. I think that again the facade aspect could continue more throughout your building. Just on this perspective here, you could continue it also along your external walkways, so you get that integration between internal and external areas. So how the people integrate with then that facade system, I think could have been continued further a bit in the design. One little thing I think I'll make comment on for future projects is your site context. So for your 3D, your site plan, I mean that the site itself is very much positioned at the waterfront, and I think what may have been lost a little bit is the placing of that 3D with here looking a bit of a greener surround. So it would have been probably good to see a bit of water for context, given the position of the site in reality. I think that's something to be mindful of for future presentations as well. That could have just helped your 3D expression a bit better, perhaps.
Okay.
That's about it from me, I think.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. So should I stop share?
If you're done, you can stop off. Then
Okay. Thank you for the comment. Thank you.
So I start sharing the slide. So can you see now? So my name is Aaron. So as brief, our site is at Thailand. So Thailand is famous with the crafting. So our group is doing textile crafting. So we are doing research of the textile, which is the raw material, the textile pattern, the process, and then the sustainability practice. So from this research, we are doing the drawings. So I'm doing the drawing as based on the information and research of Thai textile, and then also based on the site analysis with inspiration of textile. So this is the tree shape, but change the element into the textile element, like string, textile, with the process, and then the texture of textile. So the keyword that from the drawing is the line, the movement, and then become a motion. So this is the development of the building element from the true drawing, and then this is the final design of the building element, which is column. So the design intention. So this is the case study of the facade design ornament. So this building is a restaurant at Vietnam, which it is inspired that show the woodcraft of the Vietnam craftsmanship. And then it also play with the wood panel to show the movement, and then also play with the line. So the idea that I done from the case study to the facade design. So this facade design is for safety, which cover the space, and then also for the ventilation, and then the one function of this facade also is hang the textile. So hanging the textile on the structure. So this is the construction drawing, and then the model, and then this is our site location, which at the Bang Kachau Pier. So this is a site analysis, which about the pedestrian pathway, the sun, and then the wing is from the southwest, and then the view. There are two view which is the opposite of the site, the city view, and then the another side is the forest view, which is Bang Kachau. And then there are three mains at the site which is the Bang Kachau Pier, which the tourists will come, and then it also a cycling zone, which the tourists were cycling around the Bang Kachau, and then they also have an existing building for the local. And this is SWOT, which the strength is the greenery and then the view of the site, and then the weakness is they will have flood due to the rise of water because it's near to the river, and then lack of pathway. And then the opportunity is can elevate the building level and design more pathway at the site. And then the threat is the existing building, which block the bigger space of the site, and then the uneven land level. So this is the site synthesis. So from the site analysis, I will design a cultural center, which is the level will be higher, and then to solve the uneven land level, I will propose a pavilion with even height, and then added the bicycle pathway and then pedestrian pathway, and then demolish the existing building to increase their area, and then the view. So I will design a platform, the higher level, to have a large view of the city and then the river. So the user group that I target is the teenager, the young generation, the local at the local, and then the adult, senior citizen, and then tourists, which the children can learning the Thai textile craft, and then the adult can have the work opportunity, job opportunity, like doing the textile and then sell to the tourists. Then senior citizen can spend their time. Then tourists can know more about the Thailand culture. So this is the design intention, which I would like to make the natural together with art and then the urban. So below is the design idea, which is the form of the building is showing the connection and then permeability, and then the green system, which will relocate the tree, and then the linear connection. So this is the massing model that I have studied. So first one is a massing model which showing the cultural center, and then with small pavilions surrounded the building. And then the second model is the inspiration of the building element, which is column, the straight line, and then they are twice together and then meet at the center. So from the side, so this is the massing development, which I propose a layout plan and then divide into 4 space with different function, which the first near to the pier is entrance. Second is the craftsman workshop, souvenir shop, and art studio. The third is the cultural center, theater, cafe. So the building that near the river will lift up higher than other due to the flood might occur, while the another part is lower. So the entrance will be lower, and then the near the river will be more higher. So split the site with pavilion to having more space for local and tourists to gather and relax. Then next is the organic shape of the building, which allow the wind flow and also the capture into the building. So to connect the site with the building, I have proposed a bridge that which allow the circulation and also the forest view at the forest site. And then for another side, which is the river side, I will propose another bridge that is connect from the pier to the building. So these two bridges will link together so the circulation can be done from the pier to the Pangkachao and also the site. Then the last is having the facade system to the existing building to make it more more related to the building. So this is the programmatic diagram, which the down one is the entrance. They come out, they are go through the souvenir shop and cafe, and then they are going up to the art studio and craftsman workshop, and then the final is the gallery, which they also can connect from the pier to the gallery and also from the Pangkachao. So this is the schedule of accommodation. The activity will be done at the site, and then the final mixing model, which is get the inspiration from the previous model and then also from the mixing development. So this is the space of the cultural center, which is bicycle parking. So because the Pangkachao is a tourist destination and it is famous, like using bicycle to go surrounding the Pangkachao, and then I will propose a vertical bicycle parking to provide a maximum of capacity of bicycle in a minimal space. So second is the pavilion, which is located at the uneven land, which is near the river, so the people can more closer to the water. So the third is the bridge that is facing the forest, which the forest side they can have a forest view, and then for another bridge which is facing the river, they can have connection from the pier to the building and also have a city view that opposite the site. And then 5 is the interior space, which is corridor. So it also intention that the facade design is allow the sun and then allow the wind, so the people can like and get the experience for the building. So the circulation of the cultural center. So as I present before is the forest. There is a connection between the pier and then the building. Then also Pangkachao to the building. So the main entrance, which the building will living up. So the entrance will be have a staircase to go through, and then also the link staircase. And then this is the building design shape intention. So my building shape is get the intention from the cocoon pattern, which is the material of the making the textile. So I will research of the structure and also the design to get inspiration for the building shape. And this is the garden area, which the garden area is at the middle of the building, which is have a height to pass a garden area and then also put the building element. So it is inspired of the nature of technique and manufacturing method to weave the Thai textile. So it is a language that showing the process of textile. And then also the bridge area, which is connected from the pier and then Pangkachao to the building, which is inspired from the process of making textile, which the bridge is indicate the textile that connect people, building, and nature. So the people from the pier can go to the building, and then the building go to the Pangkachao. So this is a process which the bottom is the garden area, from the basic, the process, and then become a bridge, which is can consider as a textile form that's showing to the public. So this is the dynamic which the building can be changed of its color themes towards the fashion. So maybe this few year the fashion is this color, and then they can hang the textile with that color, so make the building different from year to year, from a fashion to another fashion. So this is the site plan that's showing the pier and then the connection of the bridge and then the building. The ground floor is showing the souvenir shop, bicycle parking, and then the garden. And then the art studio at the middle and craftsman workshop or working space. And then the building that near to the river is the gallery. Then this is the front elevation. So you can see from the entrance to the final gallery is in different level. So this is the another elevation and section. This is the activity will be done, which the pier, the tourist landing space, and then the docking under the bridge, which the local can put their boat at there, and then the garden, the forest near to the site, and then the bicycle parking. That is the exterior activity. So for interior activity, which is the souvenir shop and cafe, and then the middle is the working space and art studio, and then the last is the gallery and then the craft center to show the textile and then having textile event. So this is the gallery, which intend to showcase the various of textile design and art piece to the visitor, to the tourists. And then the corridor, which designed with opening that introduce the play of light and shadow and encourage the visitor to interact under the beauty shadow and also allow the wind to come in. And then the entrance, garden with the column design, and then with the hang of the textile, they can when the wind will blow the textile and then they will like making the language, then the textile will move. And then this is the daytime, nighttime, and then I will show a video. So the video is showing from the pier to the building, and then from the building they are stepped down to the Bang Kachau, to the forest, or from the forest they also can go to the building from another bridge that is facing the forest. So they going down to the garden and below the building, which near to the river, and then back to the pier. So the building will change to the color from the fashion that were hanging the textile at the structure, and then also along the bridge, the railing. Okay, so I think that's all. Thank you.
I think the composition is quite well. It's okay, but I would say I still think that the volume is not enough. It's fairly apparent in the video when you go into one of the galleries. It looks very. I mean, when you have such a open plan, when you have such a huge horizontal floor plate, you have to have some level or some volume, because the problem is it looks very confined in a way, so that the idea of having the artwork, flexibility of exhibiting a certain artwork that requires certain scale, and giving the artwork to actually room to breathe. I mean, you have this very vibrant artwork you've shown in the images, but the problem is maybe if you have such a confined height, it could damper the experience of that particular viewing. Yeah, you can see one of this slide 44, for example. Yeah, is at the brim of that particular wall height. It doesn't have more room to go either up or down. So you sort of like limiting yourself to a certain dimensionality, and the flexibility of this gallery is in question. And I would say the color could, or the texturing of your 3D model could have been a little bit more. I mean, you could have done a bit more work on that, especially when we can't differentiate what is what. I mean, of course, there's only like this default material and glass, but other than that, maybe this whiteness, even though is in the jetty or the deck, is killing off the illusion of this particular building. And maybe a little bit more work on the compound or the surrounding area of the particular building would help as well. And then I would say, if you look at the motifs, maybe they can be a bit more streamlined, because it looks like they are just randomly being placed here and there. So maybe some of the thing that maybe you could look at, maybe just having everything this sort of like opaque topaz or diamond looking shape, and then carve a nice opening that way where you can have this motif around. Maybe a bit more clearer definition will improve the building outlook as a whole, and of course the increase of the volume and height. Yeah, I think that's it.
I think you've done quite well to try and incorporate. I mean, there's a lot of design ideas earlier on that you can see in your exploration of the different aspects of the site. And I think you've definitely covered a lot of ground of the site itself. And I do like that you've integrated your building with the adjacent water too. I think that's a nice take, given you do have that aspect. You're not just viewing it. You've the buildings, I guess, crept into the water there as well as the land. I think you've thought about obviously the raising of the whole building. There's a lot of it's a lot of building, and I think that's obviously to be looking at your structure. If we're looking at that side of things, that's a good stage to be at if we're trying to question perhaps how it's the whole form is created. But I think look, that it's a good project. You've tried to achieve everything you could, and I think, yeah, perhaps the translation between your imagery of what you're wanting to propose for your gallery spaces to what you have created could just be carefully thought through to make sure that you're achieving what you're wanting to feel the aesthetic of your spaces are. I think is worth looking at next time.
Next slide. Sorry.
No, I think it's the images where you go further down from what you've tried to illustrate in this current image to further down. You had some of your spatial suggestions. Again, that feedback of what you're trying to create to what you have in some of your volumes could maybe be further looked into.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I like it as a whole. You've thought about a lot of different aspects. So that's well done.
Yeah, we are. I think we need to wrap up the room, so then we can leave. So maybe we can open our camera and then we just talk a bit about what you can do as a whole. Generally, I would say I appreciate the exploration on the motifs and trying to appreciate a foreign culture, which is in this particular case, Siamese or Thailand culture with regards to motifs. But I would suggest the projects to be slightly more specific, because as of now they are addressing a very broad issue. I mean, some of you are trying to become like a co-working space. Yeah, in a way it could be possible, but if you could just imagine this pattern, design, or motifs, or this particular exercise as a medium, and your objective is something else. For example, the other guy that wants to talk about the spiritual motif. I'm not so sure what is it called or the term is, but if that is what it is, meaning that this particular craft center specifically produce garments or you know, fabric that relates to such ritual, religious ritual, you know, so you zoom down your particular interest or subject, so that it could be slightly a bit more curated. This idea of, you know, serving sort of like a generic craft center would not work, because I would imagine in Thailand alone there must be a lot of such or similar centers which they have no specialization, and they can't go, you know, move out or become different from the rest, because they are just serving the same market. Unless you go into a niche market where if it is, you know, with regards to religious garment, then you have to go to this center, then because of the, you know, maybe the monk or whatnot has endorsed or maybe in a way contributed to the part of the production, then it makes sense why people have to go to this particular one. So maybe some of the activities, for example, producing, I don't know, drying. I can remember that there's a girl that doing the lower ground floor thing. Instead of just thinking that, oh, you are producing for this, maybe the whole thing is run by an orphanage. Basically, again, using this craft as a medium to support the orphanage as an operation. So as I mentioned early on, when you don't have this specialization, or when your project is not well directed, not well focused, you start to do all these very generic spaces which will not contributing or give character to your particular building or architecture per se. So the problem starts from there, I think, because you're taking it as it is, like a form, or like a tangible things that you can plant it directly to your building without thinking what that particular craft or motif could do to the society or a subset of certain group of society. So maybe in the future you could do that, because if you look at books, movie, or video games, they are creating worlds, they are creating environments. So basically, the more detail you give, the more convincing that world will be. Because right now it's fairly, as I mentioned, general configuration of workshops. So we can't say this workshop is too big or too small, or appropriate for orphanage or appropriate for golden age people or whatnot, because we don't have that level of detail or clarity in the particular project. So that's, I think, the biggest area that you guys can improve on as you move on to semester 5. And all the best, and take care.
Thank you.
I might jump in and just as a whole, I think it's a big challenge and a big push to get to your, the presentation at the end. And I know you've all probably worked very, very hard and long hours to get to where you are. So I think a good job done. But I think that, the areas to improve, again, visual communication is really important in also how everybody approaches their presentations. And I think a lot of exploration goes at the beginning, and it's important not to lose that when you move forward into your design. I think, that this is a strong facade-based project, and I think that's a really important key to translate from what you've done initially. And I think everyone has done good concept design in their facade and their ideals, and to make sure that translates when you move forward into the design itself. And I think focusing on giving your building the purpose in the some of the more successful plans were because they'd focused in on what the buildings were being used for. And I think that really helps to create the project. When you do have a large site and a lot of open-ended possibilities, it's good to pick a focus and then to draw upon that as to how it works for function and incorporating then the other aspects of the brief. I think everyone's, it's a good job done, and there's always room for improvement, and that's with everything in life and practice. But I think it take on comments and learn to move forward. It's good. Well done and good luck.
Yep, I think that's a very good point. I think Miss Kushi just left, so she won't be saying anything. But she did actually mention a few points that whatever you guys learn here is just a tip of the iceberg from what we will face in the real life. So take it as a starting point for you guys to venture into, and then yeah, you guys are still in the second year, so there's a lot of things to go through, and also there's a lot of doors to be opened later on. So hopefully this will be a good starting point for you guys. Anything you guys want to give a feedback to the panels before we can call it a session? Anyone? Miss Elspeth came all the way from Aussie to us, so a big background from me and Els. We've done just one-time collaborations, right?
That's right.
So the connections actually stays forever. So the collaboration that we did is just for a brief week, but the effects of it to our mindset and through our design process, thoughts, all of it is actually, it translates into different kind of communication and all that. So I think it's a good thing that you guys happens to be in this position where we try to collaborate this semester else with Indah University, Chulalongkorn University of Bangkok, and they have done a few presentation session with Thailand University as well. Right. So it's a bit similar to what we've done back in the days, but
yes.
Yeah, so these are the things that we would like the students to experience as well. Perhaps there are some ups and downs in the presentation. Maybe Zen, you want to say something?
Nothing.
Okay.
I'd like to add to that. I think particularly being asked from yourself to partake in this, from something we did do, I think, participating 8 years ago or so, it's really something you take on board. Each semester everyone works very hard, but it's important to different feedback and that communication between each other as well as the tutors, that really puts you in good stead for future outside of university, and the things you do learn and draw upon from that research and knowing how to approach a site and a project is really valuable from what is taken from a fairly nerve-wracking time of having to present your work. I think that's very, very valuable to be part of. So I say thank you, Fahmi, for letting me partake in this.
Thank you for joining us. I'm really, really appreciate that. Maybe we can continue on this network in the future. Maybe we can ask Jose and the guys to actually join us as well.
Yeah.
Again, thank you, AR Kawarizmi. Thank you, Els, for joining us today. And we won't be joining the main room. We just wrap it up here. So anything from the students? I thank you, the students, for the presentation. Yeah, I know you guys have been work overnight to do this thing. And thank you, the tutors and panels, to to actually join us. Actually, this presentation we open for publics to join as well. So throughout the presentation just now, there are some few guests that actually joins in, and then they left after we've done the presentation. Okay. So with that, thank you very much. Else, catch you up later, maybe in the Facebook again. Kawa, thank you so much for the comments. It was nice meeting you after this.
All right.
All right, so I'm going to jump to other groups as well. So let's call it a session. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
So how do we end the recording? Xiang, how to end the recording?
Just stop recording.
Okay, 看到了。
So